So to get started, I'm going to be working from a normal chevron beginning, and I'm going to switch it up for the first row by taking the 2 outside threads at one side, and I'm going to knot towards the centre for the first knot, and I'm going to switch and knot away from the centre for the second knot. And then taking the thread that I've just worked over, I'm going to do the same thing over the next thread. So towards the centre and switch and away from the centre. And then for the next one, just repeating that, knotting towards the centre and away from the centre, and then dropping that thread, and then doing the same thing over the next thread. And I'm going to do this until I've got to the centre. So once I've done one side, I'm going to do the same thing at the other side. So for the first knot, knotting towards the centre, and then for the second knot, knotting away from the centre, and then just dropping the thread that I've just worked with and taking the one I just worked over, knotting towards the centre over the next thread, and then switching and knotting away from the centre with the same thread, and dropping the thread, and then doing the same thing over the next thread, and basically just doing the same thing all the way down. And then once in the centre, I'm just going to knot those 2 threads together. So once you've done, you'll end up with a little bit of a dash pattern like that. So for the second row, I'm just going to be working as though it's a normal chevron. So I'm just going to knot towards the centre over every thread. And then the other side, I'm going to do the same thing again. So taking the outside thread, I'm just going to work towards the centre over every thread. So once you've done your second row, you should end up with something that looks like this. So then for the third row, I'm going to repeat what I did for the first row, and I'm going to be working the first knot towards the centre and the second knot away from the centre. And then for the row after that, I'm going to be working towards the centre of every thread. And you want to repeat this until you've worked all your colours for your first section. So once you've done your first section, you'll have worked all your colours in the same 2-row repeat pattern. So for the next section, you're just going to be working in a normal chevron pattern. So you're going to work towards the centre over every thread, and you're going to do this for the same amount of rows you did for your first section. So once you've done a couple of rows, you'll see you've got a normal chevron to contrast with your alternating chevron section. You just want to keep doing this until you've completed all your colours in your chevron, and then you want to go back to doing this part again. So once you've done your second section of your chevrons, you can go back to what you did at the beginning and do your alternating chevrons. You could just do one section in the centre of chevrons rather than two, but I've done two because I wanted the same amount of rows of normal chevrons as I had alternating chevrons. But you could do it however you wanted. And when you finish, you should end up with something that looks like this. So I've started with a loop, so I've done 2 braided tie-on ends at one end. But if you started with a flat edge, you just do 1 braided tie-on end there and 1 there. So now you just want to try on your bracelet. And that is your completed friendship bracelet.